Boy, Yu-Gi-Oh! Really wishes it was this classy. This is the OSMcast. Hey folks, and welcome back to the OSMcast, your podcast for everything awesome. I'm Basil, and with me this time is not Kevin or Doug. I actually have two special guests with me on this podcast. First off, from MomoCon is...
Hi, I'm Jess. I'm one of the two con-chairs of MomoCon.
And also with us from Otaku USA Magazine, as well as Animegamers...
Strike that. Reverse it. Ink and hi.
Okay, well, you probably are more Animegamers than Otaku USA, but Otaku USA, that's an actual print magazine. That's got and that's quote unquote important.
It's got 10 readers. I mean,
and growing. It's the last standing print magazine for anime. So anyone who hears this podcast should definitely check it out online, otakuusa.com, and subscribe.
Yes, we'll bring it up to 12 readers.
Exactly.
So how are y'all doing tonight, guys?
I'm pretty good. How are you, Basil?
I am doing excellent, because we're going to be talking about awesome, amazing shoujo works.
I know. I'm really excited.
Or is it? No, it's josei. That's right.
Yeah.
Josei. But, yes, so we can find us on various places. You can, of course, find the OSMcast at OSMcast.com, OSMcast.com. You can now find us on Twitter at OSMcast. You can find us now on Tumblr at OSMcast. You can find us on Facebook, OSMcast. You can email us at awesomecast@gmail.com. Leave comments in the comment section. You can now listen to us on Stitcher. We're now doing Stitcher. We are still having issues getting ourselves back up on iTunes, but I now have to have a post explaining how you can manually add yourself to iTunes because iTunes won't add us back for some weird reason.
Because Apple's jerks.
They are. But speaking of jerks, if you have any complaints for our podcast at all, please send all issues and problems and yelling at us emails to podcast@chainsawbuffet.com.
Nice.
And you can...
Are we moving on to other plugs? Or
Yes, we're moving on to other plugs.
Okay. I didn't mean to jump all over you. I'm terrible.
That's okay. Jump all over me as much as needed.
You can find out about MomoCon on momocon.com. That's MOMOCON. If you didn't know, Momo means peach in Japanese, and we're based in Atlanta. We thought it was kind of clever. If social media exists, we're on it. Just take a look. I'm kind of everywhere. And usually you're conversing with me if you're conversing with someone on our social media platform. We're running a Kickstarter right now. That's kind of exciting. For a game and media animation career fair. So if you want to support that, there's links on momocon.com as well. It's pretty cool. That's all I got.
Now, what is MomoCon, Jess?
Oh, yeah, I guess I should say that.
It's a peach festival.
Of course. No. MomoCon is an animation and gaming convention that's held in Atlanta. We had 12,000 attendees in 2013, and we're looking to have some crazy growth because our numbers are way up for pre-reg, so it's going to be really awesome fun. We've announced some awesome guests. There's 17 guests on the guest list, and I've got another 5 or 6 waiting in the wings that haven't confirmed with me with contracts yet. So there's lots of cool stuff coming. We actually just confirmed last night the Toonami crew. The crew that puts on the Toonami block is coming back, which is pretty cool.
I'm still mad that you were able to someone around us, besides anyway, finally landed Troy Baker.
I love Troy Baker. We booked Troy Baker and we got Courtney Draper so that we could have a BioShock thing going on too.
Nice.
Well, he's pretty cool.
He is a cool guy. I remember seeing him at NecoCon several years ago, and I went to my local AnimeCon. And I'm guys, we gotta we got to get Troy Baker now. If we don't get him now, we're never getting him. And now that he's in like things like BioShock and Batman and Last of Us, I'm like, wow, we're never getting him.
Yeah.
So it's cool that you are getting him, because he is a cool guy to get. Speaking of cool guys to get, we've got Ink, and Ink does awesome things in places. How about where those are, Ink?
Typically in your backyard. You don't know, but I'm in the tree or the shrubbery. Just, binoculars. Those are the cool things I do.
Really impressive, considering I live in Alabama.
Hey, frequent flyer miles, man. They help. You can find me generally on anagamers.com. We're a anime manga animation site. We review stuff. Most of our people have other tentacles everywhere. Evan Minto is actually involved with Crunchyroll right now. He's a programmer for them. And he'd be proud of me for saying, disclaimer, that does not affect any of the shows he reviews on the site. Let's see what else. He's also a writer for Otaku USA, like I am. And I also write for Fandom Post. You can find me there. But they made me change my name to Mastio Van Plume because they don't like pseudonyms.
Okay. So that's where you can find all of us who are talking to you tonight about Chihayafuru, which is an amazing josei anime and manga series. But before that, we've got to get into our Moments of Awesome.
Moments of Awesome!
So, Moments of Awesome, where we talk about things that we think are cool, just not in super long form. Trying to think of racking my brain on what I wouldn't do, because I was doing my season of sport for a while, because there were a lot of sports anime that started up last season.
Are you caught up on Ippo?
I am almost caught up on Ippo. I need to watch the latest episode. For Ippo, what I actually end up doing is usually I wait a couple of weeks.
And then just marathon it?
And then marathon a couple, and I'll marathon like 2 or 3 episodes at a time.
That's cool.
Because, well, I guess I'll now use Ippo for it. Hajime no Ippo. I think it's Rising. Is this one? It is the latest of the boxing series. I don't remember if I talked about this yet or not, but whatever. We just did a year in retrospective anyway, so I've talked about it before regardless. But it is a long-running manga series that's still going on that we occasionally, Madhouse will grace us with seasons out of nowhere. And it's about...
It was kind of out of nowhere, this new one. It's like, what?
Well, from what I understand, is one of Madhouse's more old-school producers was the guy who tracked down the mangaka for it and was like, hey, I worked on Ashina Joe, and I want your boxing manga is really cool. Let us do your boxing your boxing anime adaptation.
That's pretty.
And because that guy was, a known quantity, he was like, okay. And so, from what I understand, that is a story on how Ippo got made into anime. And I believe some of those same guys, they're now part of the guys who split up with Mappa, which is, sort of the Madhouse offshoot who also worked on Kids on the Slope.
Well, yeah. Maruyama is who was the former head of Madhouse, actually founded that entire company on his own. He split off from Madhouse due to creative differences.
And but what's funny is that if you look at the credits for Ippo Rising, Madhouse and Mappa both work on it. So I guess it is not as much bad blood as one might think when someone breaks off from a pre-existing group.
Oh no! You know how the Japanese creatives are. They're always keep in touch but distance themselves.
So I thought that was really neat, and it stars a guy named Ippo. He is this burly dude who was originally sort of a geeky outcast guy who eventually learns all about the joy. Who his dad was a really big inspiration for who passed away when he was an early age, and his dad was this big strong guy, and so he always wanted to be strong like his dad, and it's sort of his ongoing quest to understand what the meaning of strength is, but through boxing. So, pretty sure that he's probably way stronger than his dad ever actually was, just in terms of actual strength. But because of his dad, being so much larger than life, in his life, Ippo is still, of course, going like, I don't know if I know it yet. I got to become stronger. A good, nice shonen sentiment. And so it's been in 3 chunks now, basically, where you had the first really long TV series, which is one of the best blocks of just pure sports anime you can find. And I'll explain what pure sports anime is later, or what I refer to as pure sports anime. But then we got a second season a few years ago, and then now we're in our current 3rd season. And I've been enjoying it a lot. It starts off actually with a flashback about his experiences with his father, Ippo and his father, which was really nice. And then we're getting into some really neat fights, and I'm really enjoying it.
That's cool.
So, yes. Who's next?
Ladies first.
Okay. I'm not that interesting because this is going to sound really shameful. I'm not currently following any anime whatsoever. It's terrible. I'm a horrible fan. And God, I'm not even following any animation either. Like, Stucky will put on Archer occasionally, and I guess it's in the background. I'm watching Chicago Hope on Hulu, and I'm loving the ever-loving shit out of it. I don't even know why. Something about hospital dramas. It's not that exciting. But, like, it's an exciting show, and it's really good, but I don't know. I couldn't get into any anime in the last... I think the last series I watched to completion was probably Attack on Titan, and the only reason I watched it to completion is because I'd finished so much of it, and the end of it was very frustrating, and I couldn't leave it unfinished. So I had to finish it. It was like, it couldn't go unfinished. So I'm really not that exciting. I apologize.
You could talk about things that aren't anime. Technically, we are much like MomoCon is a multi-genre con, the OSMcast is technically a multi-genre podcast.
Oh. Well, I spent last weekend in Nashville with our friends from MTAC. That was pretty exciting. I can plug their con, right?
Yeah, that's fine. It's whatever.
I missed Basil because Basil couldn't be there, and it made me sad.
Well, maybe if y'all told me ahead of time that was happening, I could have...
Hey, you can blame Lauren for that. I'm just saying. This is secret back-end knowledge of conventions. We all know each other, and a lot of us all like each other and hang out. So, yeah.
But just for an example, one of the things we reviewed last week, or last episode, was how delicious duck is.
Oh my god, duck is the best! It's the best fatty meat, holy crap.
Especially if you eat it just like rotisserie style. Just hold a spit in your hands and rotate the duck and gnaw off the duck flesh.
Oh my god, that's so primal and fantastic.
So, seriously, Moments of Awesome, anything goes. So don't feel bad if it's not anime. Seriously.
Well, okay. So I got one. Okay. So this is a little dated because it's like the end of January. But so on January 1st, I decided that in the South, right, you have New Year's traditions where you're supposed to eat pork for health and you're supposed to eat greens for money and hoppin' john, which is like beans and rice, like dirty rice, for luck, right? Well, that's all well and good. But all of those things exist in Korean barbecue. So I got together a giant group of people. And, I'll preface this with, if you've never had Korean barbecue, I'm pretty sure God reached his hand down and touched South Korea and said, I'm sorry you guys got the shit end of this and you're going to have to deal with communism later and some assholes above you. So here's the most delicious food in the world. Enjoy. And that's what Korean barbecue is. It's... Dear God, it's like heaven. And I took 20 people to an all-you-can-eat Korean barbecue on New Year's Day to fulfill our Southern food obligations of pork and greens and rice and beans. And I ate so much, and I took the giantest poop afterwards, and it was possibly the best day I've ever had in my entire life.
That's a pretty good moment of awesome.
It was pretty awesome.
I don't know how you're going to top that, Ink. I don't know. That's...
Wow. No, I can't. But like, my lame attempt would be a book party. I just I just attended. It was for my recent collection. And I actually had a haiku death match with another poet where the host or the MC of the event came out in a kimono and was officiating this battle of words to the death. And in the end, we were both so slain by each other's words that were so bloodied. The audience could not tell by applause who actually won. We were both so dissolved in each other's insults that we lay there, a mass on the floor with nothing to contend, and the night just sort of got immortalized in this picture a live painting artist did, and afterwards we all went to a diner in that state and got free food because of it.
That's pretty awesome.
That is pretty awesome. Do you by chance remember any of the haikus that you threw?
Well, they're actually more senryu than haiku, but
okay,
I do. If you can babble for a second while I find like two of them, because they were pretty funny.
All right, sure. Like that sounds. I mean, it's like, man, that has to be like possibly one of the most hipster like epic events I have ever heard of in recent memory. The whole idea of like, I'm going to have a haiku battle to the death, and then we can't out applause each other because no one can decide, and then we go to a diner. And by the way, someone captured this in a live painting. It's I need to go wear some tie-dye and go eat some roughage and maybe some, some organically grown meat.
Speaking of roughage,
last year.
Here was one that made the crowd giddy. Vegan, friend to all animals. Just look at how his blow-up sheep grins. Yeah.
Oh, vegans.
But yeah, stuff like that. So that was my moment of awesome.
Nice. Well, speaking of poems and poetry, that is an excellent segue to our actual topic of conversation.
That was not planned at all.
As well, because we'll be dealing with 100 poets or 100 poems. Or is it 100 poems or 100 poets?
Same thing.
Same thing.
Regardless, an issue.
It is about a Japanese cartoon, all about that if those 100 poems were in fact an obscure Japanese card game. We're talking about Chihayafuru. Okay, so Chihayafuru is a sports anime. A sports anime is anime about a sport. I'm sure that if people have been listening to the OSMcast for a while, they know all about it because that is my jam. Like, it is. And I feel that sports anime, there's sort of two general poles that you can have. One is things like Hajime no Ippo and Ace of Diamond, where it's sports anime for the sport's sake, where a lot of it is really about that sport and about the playing of the sport. And things like, for example, Ice Shield 21 was sort of a way that it was, it was a wacky comedy, but it was really nested in the whole idea of American football and how they play American football and the rules are and what crazy things are doing because of the rules and various techniques.
Do you classify Yakitate Japan in that category?
It is that same style. I feel that's more cooking anime.
Well, yeah, but it's food. It's very, in opinion, it's very tropey. Like it's got the sports anime trope. It's almost like a big parody of the sports anime trope. But
I think it's really a question of sports anime is sort of under a sort of a nesting umbrella of specific subjects and sort of almost informational shows. Whereas there's a whole lot of cooking anime and manga. Well, not anime, but there's a whole lot of food manga out there,
mm-hmm.
and a lot of that food manga is that same style as Yagatai Japan, and so it's almost as much of its own genre as sports are, but they follow the same sort of ideas.
Okay.
They use the same sort of templates and ideas, like you've said.
Yeah.
And so I don't think Yagatai Japan is a parody of sports so much. It's more it's the style of food manga or food anime would be. But then on the other end of the pole, you have stuff like Mitsuda Adachi's works like Touch and Cross Game, where it's actually telling a completely different story that just is using sports as a framing device. Where, for example, in Touch and Cross Game, it's the whole idea of getting over a loss, and which is really the big thing in Cross Game, whereas Touch also has sort of a romantic comedy thing going on along with it too. And baseball's in there, but it almost feels like they could have swapped that out with other sports and pulled, or at least other team sports, and pulled something similar off.
Interesting, and I like your classification, and I don't mean to interrupt your intro here, but I had a thought about it. So I don't know how familiar you guys are with board game styles, American versus European board game styles, but it's almost like this could be analogous to board game styles, because American board games are based on theming, and it's about the actual theme. Like, if it's wizards and witches, it's very into wizards and witches instead of the mechanics of the game. Whereas European style, it's all about the mechanics of the game, and you could pretty much swap out the theme easily, and it would make no difference. It's about the mechanics of it. So, I don't know. It felt very similar when you were describing it.
I like that analogy, actually.
And I kind of feel that Chihayafuru it actually, what it ends up doing is it sits somewhere in the middle, where it is, I don't think you could do this style of anime without Karata, but it does the same thing where, because Karata is this obscure card game, especially in America. No one's going to know what Karata is. Like, let's face it, probably none of us knew what Karata was until this anime came out.
Well, we would, people in America would know if NIS licensed it. Did I say that out loud? Oops.
Hey, NIS, did you hear that?
I wish they heard that. Anyways, it is. I mean, even in Japan, it's kind of it seems like it's an old card game. It's an old game, and it's kind of, it's one of those things that they know, but they don't really, once you get to a certain age, unless you're a really big fan of it, you probably never deal with it ever again.
It reminds me of in America when you learn to play the recorder in like 3rd grade, and then you never pick it up again.
Except that this, they still have annual competitions. It takes place every January, and it's actually, the popularity has been growing since the airing of this anime and the introduction of the manga.
I don't mean a direct correlation, but that's what it reminds me of, because I can't think of anything else that, I guess in the U.S., that people actually do play woodwind instruments, but very few people do. And everybody kind of learns to, at some point in elementary school, to play the recorder, So,
and the recorder still is somewhat relevant. If you're ever bored, just do a Google search for flute drop. You'll get sent to this amazing SoundCloud page where this guy, he will take very popular songs, and right when it hits like the important choruses and things, he'll replace the vocals with him playing a recorder really badly. It is an absolute amazingly terrible, but yet still amazing piece of musical artistry that I can never recommend enough. But what I feel is that what you see, I realized watching it, especially once we got into the second season, of Chihayafuru, all the characters themselves are, they're somewhat misfits. They're people who don't quite, fit in anywhere. But once they get into Karata, this sort of misfit card game itself, that's when they fit in. That's where they sort of find their purpose.
Well, that's sort of the whole impetus behind the main character's motivation. Is she's this passionless thing who just sort of worships her sister for being a model and in the public eye. She's got all the attention. She's getting, in magazines and adored by high school and her friend, people at her high school and Chihaya's friends, or Ayase's friends, I should say. But all of a sudden she discovers this one person, a friend, or someone who she inadvertently defends in class, who ends up teaching her a passion that she was unaware of, or that could even exist. And once she sees that, something ignites in her. And not so much that she's a misfit, and she is, because, Karuta is not in the public eye, but because she cares so much about this passion that she's seen portrayed, public perception doesn't even matter. It doesn't even come to account on this. The only time public opinion matters in Chihayafuru is some slight mention of how the club that she eventually forms is, oh, well, that's the Karuta Club. That doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting they refer to her as a Muda Bijin, a wasted beauty, because she does turn out to be really pretty. and she's really awkward and really outspoken, and holy crap. There's several times in the series, in both series, first season and second season, where they point out exactly how much she doesn't care for other people as much as she cares for Karuta.
But that's one of the things where she was a beauty. I mean, she is no way, honestly, visually any less than her sister. But because she grew up with her sister being, so important, she never had a chance to realize that she could be important too, until she met this card game, as it were. And if you look at all the other characters, they're all in some way, they're not quite outcasts, but they're misfits. They've got their own quirks and things that sort of kept them from really forming any other really good long-term relationships until they get into Karuta. Like even your one of the other main characters, Taichi, who is ostensibly the popular one. His issue is that he's constantly having to study really hard to be the best, to appease his overbearing parents.
Yeah.
And so because of that, he never really formed any connections except for when he started playing with Ayase. And then you have Desuko-kun, or
Destomu-kun.
Yes.
Just call him Glasses.
Yeah. It's where his issues are with, also again, he is very smart and he thinks of things very analytically, and no one ever would talk to him or even try to really become his friend because he was always tied to his desk.
He's a big nerd.
And then you have what's her name? The girl who's really big about kimonos.
Kanade
I just call her the boob girl.
Kanade Oi. Oe, sorry.
And
no disrespect, Oe.
Disrespect. I love boobs.
Where she's got her own things, but again, Karuta sort of brings them all together. And I really do feel that Karuta, as much as anything else, is about, finding your own niche, your own place into this world.
I'll take you one step further and blow your mind. It's about the connection with the poems, which is the connection with Japan's history through its literary tradition that's actually bringing them together as a culture.
Yes.
I would almost supplement that with, I guess, and I see it in a lot of anime. I don't know how much of it is a cultural thing. Drive for success, a competitive spirit. I don't know, like the rival idea, the idea of having like a positive thing, a rival being a positive thing to drive you on further. I think that's another piece of it too, because I don't know that Chihaya connects as much with, I don't think Chihaya connects as much with the history in the poems themselves as well, outside of her interaction with Oe. But it's a lot of the competitive spirit, which I think is also a very Japanese thing. So,
well, I do think the show also does a really good job of they'll constantly talk about various cards that are being played, and therefore the poems, and then usually they do a pretty good job of sort of tonally matching at least some of the poems to whatever's going on in that particular episode.
Yeah.
And I guess we should actually get into a little bit about the basics of the show itself.
Yeah, that'd be helpful before we get into theoretics.
Again, it is a josei manga. It is at its base, and it is written by Yuki to Tetsuku. I'm really bad about pronouncing Japanese things, so I apologize to anyone who's listening to me try to do that. And anyways, it is about a car. She published it. It's published by Kodansha. It has been going on for now 23 volumes.
24, I think.
Okay, 24. Well, I'm going off of Wikipedia, so it could totally be correct or incorrect. But it's published in the magazine B-Love. It is josei, and it is about this card game. Ostensibly, is the sport in question called Ink.
Competitive Karuta.
Well, I meant the full name of it.
That is the full name. The thing the game is based off of is called the Haiku no Nishu.
That's what I meant. Sorry, my bad. That's what I was referring to. Or, as I found the most recent, easily obtained translation in America, 100 poets, one poem each.
Yes.
Which you can find on Amazon, actually, for decently priced.
And if you have the Kindle version, I think there's a version actually available for free on there, and it has a really good bit about translation in it too.
Okay, cool. So
there was actually an anime. Sorry to interrupt, Basil. There was actually an anime that came out a few seasons ago, also that it dealt with the 100 poems and 100 poets. That was not Chihayafuru. It was specifically about the poems. It was a 15-minute show, I think, where they had 15-minute episodes. I wish I could remember the name of it, but I can't.
Udakoi? Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Folk Tales from Japan.
No. It was Udakoi.
That's something else?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. No, Folk Tales from Japan was something completely different.
Yeah, Udakoi was 2 sets of 15-minute episodes. Each one, it was showcased as an overly embellished version of each poem, or how each poem came to be. Give it a nice history behind it.
Yeah, and how the poets were related to each other in different encounters. It was a little over the top, but I enjoyed it personally.
I could see pulling out a random DVD and just putting it in any time NIS America.
Yeah, I could. But Karuta is a game based off those 100 poems. And you pretty much have 2 sets of cards, and the whole idea is that you're supposed to lay your cards out, memorize where they are, because you have a reader who's going to pull out the matching card for it, and they're going to read a part of that poem. And I believe you're trying to either... Is it you're just matching what they're saying, or you're trying to grab the next part of it?
You're trying to grab the next part of it. And what makes the game especially difficult is there's 100 poems by as many poets, as insinuated by the name, but only 50 are placed in front of the players. The reader has the full set of 100 poems, so there are dead cards, or ghost cards as they're called. So a reader can start to recite a poem on one card, and immediately the players are trying to think, where is this card in front of me so I can touch it and get that card so and it can be one card closer to victory, because after you clear 50 cards, or after you clear 26 cards or 25 cards, you're the winner. But not all the cards are in play, so players can jump and cause faults at thinking, oh, this is a card, I know where it is, but it's not actually that card.
And so this anime there's an anime adaptation created by Madhouse, I believe.
Yep.
It was Madhouse, and both seasons were directed by a guy named Morio Asaka, who actually directed things like Chobits. He also worked on Cheese Sweet Home.
Nana.
And he was the director for Nana, that adaptation. And the first series scriptwriter and composition person for the first season, the only thing that person's done before, at least according to Anime News Network, the person was Naoya Takayama, also worked on the Supernatural anime series. They've done that and Chihayafuru. But then the second season was worked on by Ayako Kato and Yuko Kakihara. And what they worked on before the second season of Chihayafuru was Kids on the Slope, which was another Josei manga adaptation that was done by Mappa, who we mentioned earlier.
Interesting.
And so that's sort of the basics of, who is making this program. And this anime is, again, the sport in question is karate. And so you've got the adventures of this karate club. And it all based around actually this sort of trio of kids. Ayase Chihaya, Maishima Taichi, and Wade Arata. Yeah. And those are ostensibly those three, make our lead characters. Although Arata you don't get to see quite so often. As they were those three as kids, that's where they sort of formed their joy of karate, because Arata his grandfather was a grandmaster at the game. And he wanted to be a grandmaster too. He wanted to become the ultimate, king of karate, as it literally is. Because you get the king and queen, and the major tournaments. Or do they call? I know they call him queen. They call him king, right? Or am I thinking of a different name?
I'm going to say it's king, but I'm not entirely sure.
I'm not sure they ever.
It's master. Well, the translation I think is master. I want to say.
Okay. But that's his sort of his goal, and he's always been Arata's always been alone, because who in the world is going to actually be interested in karate? Even growing up. And Ayase is really big about everyone being cool. So when she hears that he's good at this thing, she's like, that's awesome. And as he's teaching her the game, or how to really play the game, he mentions, the whole thing of, if you become queen, then you're the best person in the world, because this is the sport only really played in Japan.
Meijin, by the way. Sorry.
Nice.
The untranslated was Meijin.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's cool. But thank you for looking that up. And so once she finds out that, wait, I can actually get good at this game, and if I'm the best at this game, I'm the best, period. I can also be the best at something, was pretty eye-opening for her. Because she had never thought about being good at anything. And then Taichi, for his own reasons, not at all bad reasons, not really bad reasons at all, just
male reasons.
He kind of has a little bit of a crush on Ayase, and he decides to learn karate as well, and they sort of form their own little, those three form their own little trio, and then Arata has to move away.
Well, they kick everybody's ass. They kick everybody's ass at matches first because of Arata's background, but yeah.
Yeah.
What I kind of really like, though, and I'm sorry for interrupting, but something
That's
that I'll
fine.
totally forget to mention earlier or later is that I love the fact that Mishima doesn't really choose to play Karuta. He's forced into it because of his own feelings and fear of losing his best friend to this new transfer student who's suddenly garnered the attention of his best friend. And I like that the male isn't the empowered person in this. I like that, Chihaya comes to it on her own and, totally develops it on her own, which is very important because up until this point she hasn't had any sort of drive. And I just wanted to put that in before we advanced.
No, totally, because after this all happens and they sort of become this trio of Karuta doom, they immediately break up as far as a group goes because they all kind of move in different directions. Because at this point they're little kids in grade school, and we come back to them in high school where Ayase is still trying to form a Karuta club. She's still trying to play this game, even if nobody else around her wants to. And by her sheer force of will, she makes things happen. She finds people, she reconnects with Taichi, and they start forming, she meets OA, and they start forming a club and gaining members. And then it becomes this, then the sports anime, comes on in full, where there are tournaments that you can play in, and both team matches as well as individual matches, as they all try to become better in this sport of Karuta.
Yes.
I don't know. I think it's I think it's an interesting dynamic because it's a love trio, but it's not a love trio at the same time. It's kind of the crux behind the show, and I really like the beginning of it. In the very first episodes, this isn't a whole lot of spoiler. In some of the very first episodes, especially when Chihaya, specifically, there's a card that begins with the first two syllables of her name, and that's her card, so to speak, that's touched on a few times in the show, and it's the first one. A little bit of background, I guess. I don't know how spoilery you want me to get. Give me some guidance here, Basil.
We can do the first 4 or 5 episodes. I wouldn't go really deep.
Okay. Well, this is a little bit of backstory. Arata is his grandfather is very good at Karuta. I'll leave it at that. So he has had a lot of practice prior to playing with Chihaya and is arguably incredibly good at it for the first time he plays with her. And she takes a card from him, and it is very unexpected. And I think anybody can really relate to when you're playing a game and you're just really bad at it at first, and you have that one instance where you score a goal or you do something or you get a kill, or it just feels really good. And you do it against somebody who's significantly better at it, and it just encourages you so much. And I really love that instance in the very beginning of the show. I don't know.
It's a key moment. It really is.
It's very relatable. It's just going to sound really strange. When I first learned how to play FPSs, I was really bad at them. I have a pretty decent aptitude for video games, but I never had an aptitude for specifically a first-person shooter. And I used to date a guy who was really, really into it, and I decided to learn. And it was, aside from relationship-wise or anything, I was playing with a group of guys that were really, really good at Halo, and I was learning how to play it, and I was really crappy, and I killed someone who's really good with a really good shot for the first time, and I was so excited, and I know that feeling so well, because I wanted to be good at that game so bad, and I was so very bad at it, but after that I learned how to play it, because it was like motivation.
Very apt analogy.
That is, and that's sort of that was her moment where she realizes that I can be good at something, because the entire time before she was really trapped in this whole world of just being a cheerleader for her older sister, because her older sister was the important one, at least to her, and the idea that she can become that sort of awakened her drive, and boy did it awaken her drive. Like, she went from someone who had nothing to now having potentially the strongest drive of anybody in the entire show. Because she's like,
Go ahead,
because she's like,
sorry.
was that?
I was saying go ahead, Basil, because I jumped in front of you, and I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, she goes straight into, getting this club formed, and she's like, now I need meeting space, and now we're going to go to this tournament. Now we're going to conquer this tournament. Now we're going to get more people. Now we're going to go, and we're all going to beat this thing, and we're all going to, she's, her eye is always on the prize.
But what's nice is that she isn't aiming for a prize. She's just seeing it as a step. She knows what she loves, and she kind of knows what path there is, and she's like, okay, I've accomplished this. This is the next thing. This is what I want to do next. And she's not aiming to be queen. She just wants to be the best she can be, which is kind of awesome.
It is kind of awesome. I think you could argue, too, that I'd say at least 20% of what she does is pretty decently unhealthy, though.
Yeah.
She is singularly focused, and to the detriment of pretty much everything around her: grades, paying attention to her friends in a lot of cases that aren't affiliated with Karuta, and and it's nice that her mother comes to support her in the series as well with the kimono piece. Like, she gets behind her hobby, even though it is something that in her household, her sister is getting a lot more of the attention and a lot more of the direct hands-on interaction with the parents.
Oh my God, can I stop you for a second? It's not going to be a spoiler because no one listening to this will understand, but I just got to say, to that point, the hand slap on the back by OA to Mishima at the end of episode 25. Right? Sorry, listeners, that was entirely geeky, but you have to watch this series for that moment because it's amazing.
But again, that's just Chihayafuru, and again, there's a whole team, and the whole interplay with all the characters and how they're all growing, all thanks to this card game. It is immensely fascinating to watch. Watching Taichi overcoming his own foibles, his own problems, because he's not naturally gifted at karate like Ayase is, and the ways that he has to really fight to overcome those problems, just so he can keep playing this game that he enjoys and wants to keep playing with to keep his attachments that he wants to keep.
But really, that goes for everyone in the show, which is a rather nice point, because all these characters grow to a vast degree, not only learning to accept their own limitations and then adapt what they learn by being defeated by certain opponents, and then integrating lessons within themselves, but they do it not only within matches but with life lessons as well, which in turn help their matches. But everyone grows, and it's an amazing thing to watch because it's not spelled out for you at each step of the way like most anime. It's just, hey, look, she's doing that thing in that last match the other person did that brought her down, and it's not highlighted. It's just there. So if you see it, it's an anime that grows and builds its characters and knows it's doing it and doesn't dumb it down for the audience.
I agree. Sorry, go ahead, Basil.
Well, I was just going to say, I think that's a case of the wonderfulness of us getting a josei adaptation, where it's based off a manga that's designed to be read by older readers. That it's not designed to be read by kids. It's not they're not trying to, the target audience they want to engage with this property, with this show, are adults, not children. And for a lot of anime that we tend to watch and enjoy, the vast majority of the stuff's going to be either shonen or shoujo. We don't get a lot of the older stuff. And even the stuff that we do get, like the seinen stuff, a lot of seinen stuff is actually like, are more nostalgic gushi mangas, more like things like, Azumanga Daioh, which is a really good example, but other things like that, like the whole, girls club of girls doing things and being cute.
Oh God, 4-Koma. It's a lot of 4-Koma stuff is made that way. They take a 4-panel comic, and turn it into a show, and there's just not a lot there, so it turns out to be cute girls or cute boys now sometimes, that are adorable, doing kind of funny things that are self-referential.
But because Chihayafuru, it's josei and it's long form, but it is designed for older readers, it knows it can be smarter than the average bear. It knows that it doesn't have to spell everything out, or else you may not notice it. And so I totally agree with you, Ink. I think you're totally right. And I just think it's one of those cases that we're getting something that is designed for older people. It's not going to be as handholdy.
It is wonderful to watch the characters develop, because I agree entirely. It's a lot of it's not laid out directly in front of you, and it's not what you expect to happen sometimes either. I won't go into spoilers during this piece of it, but there's things. You're watching a traditional show where someone is trying to be the best, that they can be in this certain thing, and it's not always that you win every match, and it's not always that things work out in the right way, and it's not always that you get to do exactly what you want to do at the right time, and there's a good balance of that in it too.
Very much so.
And also characters, they'll choose different aspects of Karuta that they actually want to get into. One of the characters realizes that, being a reader is in fact just as important to the game as it is the people playing the game. And so they realize that what their goal isn't actually be the best player, although they want to be a better player too. What they actually want to focus on is becoming a reader themselves and speaking, the actual poems.
And how much... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Or the fact that the poems are there and the poems are important, and it might be something that you want to pay attention to more than it just being a card game. The fact that it is based off this, classic literature.
And how much do you... Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
How much do you love the fact that each specific character trait, each character strength, I should say, is linked to how they play Karuta. I will forever pronounce that word, and I'm sorry, listeners. But you take Oe, who, as you mentioned, really connects with the poems. She's also the one who wants to be the reader, the only person in the game who gets to read the entire poem or make that entire poem be heard. That is her goal, because she loves those poems so much. She wants all the people playing that game in the room to be able to hear and feel that poem. And Chihaya's strength, her speed and her hearing, she's equally as quick and flighty in life, in her life outside of the game. So much like Deskomu, I can't pronounce his name. Glasses, overly analytical, great A student, fantastic student. He can analyze anything, produces these fantastic game plans. That's how he connects with Karuta. He can, devise strategies like no one else. All these traits, and it goes for every member of the Mizusawa team. Just defines them, their gameplay, their way of life. It's an amazing way to depict your characters.
I agree. And you would have never thought there was so much depth in this game, you know what I mean? That you could pull so much out of it from different people. But they just do a very good job of it.
And I think it is a case of, because it is a card game, that it's a card game, but there's a lot of physicality to it. Which I don't think people initially, when you're just learning the game probably as kids, you don't even realize. It feels like, what if you took a game of spades, but where you're actually having to, physically throw down the cards as fast as you can or something. Where the actual speed matters besides than just the playing of the cards. And so you've got both this sort of analytical, this mind game, this ability to mentally think about things, as well as the physicality of being able to physically obtain those cards when you want to, or slap them away, or touch them, or however you need to interact with them. And so you have both these things, where a lot of sports, while there is, mental gymnastics going on in any sport, the fact that this is a card game sort of brings that part up a notch to the forefront, where you're thinking that's going to be more the focus and not the physicality, like you are going to see in most other sports things. But in reality, Karate has both.
Yeah, it's amazing that the intense deliberation of strategy that takes place, in the characters' heads while thinking about, oh, well, I've got X many cards left. These are what have been read. This is where my opponent has been taking from. He might favor this side. But then it all comes down to that split-second slap against the tatami mat, and it's just done so well with that balance of, the physical, like you mentioned. And there are so many dimensions to it, too. It's just not a slap. There's defensive moves. There's offensive moves. All from a slapping card game. It's amazing.
And this anime just does such an amazing job of creating tension in those games. Oh, my God. That it is... There are very few shows that once you get into the show, getting to the end of an episode and the card game's not done yet, and you're like, what? What? What?
It's so stressful. It's stressful to watch Chihayafuru.
But in a good way.
But it's such a good stressful.
It is. It gets you excited about the next episode.
I think when this, series gets licensed, because it will get licensed, so help me God. I hope people, when they put in the DVD or Blu-ray, hopefully, that they'll play one episode and deny themselves from watching the second, just to build that tension between episodes. Because every episode ends on some sort of cliffhanger, be it emotional or strategic. It was frustrating and awesome.
It was. It really was.
There were so many text conversations between myself and Jess during the past 2 seasons of Chihayafuru, where one of us will finally watch the episode before the other one has, and we're like, oh, God! Don't say anything else. Just the, oh, God. It's all we needed.
He's correct. This happened a lot.
And it's not even formulaic, because you have... You explore your main character's traits, and you have a rotating bit of not regular adversaries, but people do come up again in season 2 that you faced in season 1. But there's enough difference and enough backstory to all of the adversaries where nothing feels repetitive. There's always a new lesson learned. A new strategy that needs to be faced and devised and overcome. And it's not always overcome, which is the nice thing. And I think we touched on that earlier.
Yeah, this is a show where they don't always win. And it's really nice because the way the whole Karate system is set up is that they have both high school matches and then the more, Japan-wide matches, as it were. Where you have, sort of the equivalent of 2, you've got your high school games and then your pro games. And because there's a mix, and because there's individual matches as well as group matches, there's enough different rankings and different sets of things that you can be doing, winning or losing, that even if you lose this game over here, you're not done. And a lot of sports anime, when they're trying, is usually, usually based in high school, and they're going for some high school championship. If they lose, they've lost, and that's it for that season. You would now need to progress the story on to a new year, or, to another tournament, if there's more than one tournament. Usually there'll be like a summer tournament and a winter tournament. And Chihayafuru, you don't have that problem because there's so many different tournaments and things and qualifiers and things that you can deal with. You don't have to just because you lose in one doesn't mean you can't watch the characters play in another thing pretty soon.
Well, there are the Karuta societies, sort of like the training, the preemptive study groups, if you will, for Karuta, and there are the individual matches and there are the team matches. And something I thought Chihayafuru did almost maddeningly well was have the individual matches play before the team matches, or the team match play before the individual matches. And this takes place in season 2, specifically, because you get more in-depth with character motivation and the effects matches have on the people in that season. After all the individual matches are finished, or after the team matches are finished, they all split up into individual matches, and you get to see how that playing affected them there. So it's not only, how it affects the team, it's how it affects the individual, and it's almost everything at the same time, which is incredibly hard to pull off, but the series manages to do it.
Yeah, the pacing in this show's incredibly well done. And I will have to point out to anyone who's worried about it being this weird card game, it doesn't matter. I understand the basics of cards now, and I have absolutely no desire to actually play because I'd be terrible at it.
Well, you also, it's hard with the cards are in Japanese.
Well, yes, but, well, for example, there is a mini game in the video game Tales of Graces that actually does a Tales of version of Karuta that you can play to earn bonuses. And in fact, I was researching Karuta earlier today. There is a game in the Super Nintendo Kirby Supercell Ultra called Kirby Card Swipe, which was a Kirby version of Karuta.
Nice.
That you could play in the game. But it doesn't matter. I don't care. Like, I can watch a show and just so I know the basics, I have no problems watching them play that game. And just getting hyped for it. Like, there is no reason, because you're not into that sport, to not watch this show. It is way more exciting than any game about cards, people actually playing cards should be. It's not like, for example, and I was got permission to complain about it at all, Yu-Gi-Oh, where the way they look, our editor Anna is really into Yu-Gi-Oh, but Yu-Gi-Oh, you've got to do all those crazy, have the actual monsters and things, right? To make sure it's exciting. Chihayafuru doesn't need that. Or, for example, maybe more temporary is Fibrain, where they do all those crazy, insane puzzles. Chihayafuru is more exciting than that, and it doesn't matter, because even though it's just them playing cards. It is amazing just how much tension and how much excitement they're able to pull through with people playing these cards. It's nuts.
It's reminiscent of Akagi, actually. Akagi. Crap.
The gambling.
That's Kaiji.
I know it was no, that's Kaiji. It was
I say Kaiji was gambling, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Kaiji was gambling. This was Mahjong?
Mahjong, thank you.
Yeah.
But it was almost the same formula. It's a lot of in the head, tension, what possible moves could be left, and how do I do this, and how do I read this particular player. But it's all about the players and their headset more than the actual sport. You don't need to know the rules of Mahjong to enjoy Akagi, just like you don't need to know the rules of Karuta to enjoy Chihayafuru.
Which, granted, that's not dissimilar from most good sports anime. Like, you don't really need to know basketball very well not to enjoy Kuroko's basketball. And in fact, I have some friends who watch, actually, Doug is one of them, one of our OSMcast members, who really enjoys Kuroko's basketball, even though they hate the actual sport of basketball. They don't enjoy watching it at all. But Kuroko's basketball is different. And I really do think it's the effect that it has, because it's not a live, you're not watching the sport live. I have a feeling if I tried to watch actual karate matches,
It wouldn't be as exciting. Well, you're not as invested in the characters.
right? Well, it's because we're watching a narrative. We're not watching an actual game.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like
And you're also not going to hear their thoughts either, because that's like a big piece of every episode is listening to the characters' thoughts and what they're thinking of their next move.
Right, and it's also, for example, there's a big major difference of going out to the field and watching a game of baseball being played versus watching baseball anime. Because it's that same thing, where while you are watching the people, throw the pitch, and you're watching the pitcher throw the pitch and trying to strike the batter out, you're not getting, in baseball's examples, the thoughts of the pitcher trying to throw the ball in a way to interact with the batter, and you're not hearing the batter's thoughts as the batter's trying to hit the ball.
Well, I think when you're talking about actual sports, the value in the narrative, and when you're watching an actual sport, comes in your investment in the team, and it's your backstory and how much you know the characters, so to speak, or the players, and that's really where people's investment in sports comes from. And if you're just watching a game, you don't necessarily have the same investment. Because I'm a Green Bay Packers fan, and I went to go see one of their games at the last time that they played in Atlanta, which coincidentally was the year that we won the Super Bowl. And it's exciting. It's exciting because I knew a lot about the players. I'm calling them characters now. I knew a lot about the players. My heart was broken because it was after Brett Favre was a jerkbag and he retired and then came back to another team because he's an asshole. I was emotionally invested in it as a fan of the team, as somebody who's spent a lot of my life being a Green Bay Packers fan. But if I went to go see a Braves game, I would be bored off my butt. So I think it's a level of investment is really a piece of it.
So what you're saying karate not a sport?
No, I'm saying...
Is that what I'm hearing?
Karate
not a sport?
Karate is a fantastic sport. I am far more invested in Chihaya's rise through the levels of competitive karate than even I am in Green Bay Packers. And I've loved the Green Bay Packers since I was about 12 years old.
And folks, that's the magic of Japanese animation.
It is. It's true.
All right, well, are any other final thoughts before we dig into the spoiler section? No? All right, cool. We're going to take another break. And when we're back, we'll be talking spoilers for Chihayafuru. We'll be right back. And we're back. Now we'll be doing spoilers for Chihayafuru. And I'm going to start off with actually more of a personal Basil spoiler. Because I forgot about one of the things I really, really enjoyed in Chihayafuru, which was the actual act of them reading the cards. One that I always forget until I'm actually watching the show. Just that sort of chanting vocalization they use when they read the cards.
Can I do it? Will you let me do it?
Oh, please do.
Go for it.
Nani wazu ni sakuyaka no hana fuyu go mori ima wo haru beto sakuyaka no hana.
I got chills.
Sorry.
And my personal spoiler is that I'm Eastern Orthodox, an Eastern Orthodox Christian, and I grew up going to a Greek Orthodox church. And whenever they would read the epistles or other things, they would use a very similar chant-like tone when reading it.
Oh, I totally like the people in Monty Python, and the monks are walking around hitting their foreheads at the slates.
Yeah, it's that same sort of thing. But the actual the act of chanting things, I've just grown up with it, And for whatever reason, the chanting, as it were, of the card reading in Chihayafuru really resonates with me. Like, it really reminds me of going to church, which is for me, a good feeling. And so that is something that I sometimes forget, that's one of my favorite parts about the show, but I'll forget about that until I'm actually watching the show. And so they have a little bit of Basil spoiler there. So now spoilers for the actual show.
I have a question for the group.
Okay.
Because I'm the girl in the group here. So, what's your OTP in this show?
OTP?
OTP means one true pairing. It's who do you ship?
Basil?
Glasses and the new girl.
Really? That's an
Sumire?
interesting ship. I like that.
Sumire?
Yeah.
Like Hanano, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's the she's in the second season. She's the girl who really wants to date Taichi. You know, she's she's the closest thing there is to a normal girl, quote unquote, in the show.
God, I don't want to think of her as a normal girl. I like all the other girls in that show so much better than her, just because she's such a typical girl.
But she brings such a neat dynamic into the show because we haven't had that yet. And the way it works, and there are just many moments where Glasses will do a thing, and then she'll realize that maybe, looks aren't everything. Maybe there are other aspects to a person that you can fall for. And it's usually Glasses who does that to her. Like there are several moments in the second season where he'll do a thing and then she'll look at him and you almost feel like there's like a light bulb starting to, doesn't quite go off, but it's starting to. And I thought, and so if I had to pick a ship, that's the ship I pick.
I like it.
I've
Ink?
honestly never shipped any characters from this show.
How can you? No, you can't say that. Who do you want her to
I've
line
come
up
up with one. I've come up with one.
Okay.
While Basil was speaking, but I've honestly never shipped before. But I think for the world's best cabaret love affair, I'm going to go with Tsukaba and Retro-kun.
Which one's Tsukaba?
Tsukaba's the new guy on the team.
Oh, God!
And Retro-kun is the
guy with
fortune-telling
the
guy.
Yeah, I know
on,
Retro-kun is.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Oh, y'all are... God, I was hoping somebody was gonna... Oh, God. So Jess loves Arata and Chihaya. Forever
that's so
and ever.
bland.
Whatever. I love it. Judge me. No, okay, so I read a lot of Tumblr, okay, because I'm on Tumblr all the goddamn time. And, Tumblr's full of women. And women like to talk about relationships in this show, and it irritates the piss out of me because everybody's like, Taichi this and Taichi that. And you know why they're like that? Because they care more about Taichi than they do about Chihaya. My favorite character in all of Chihayafuru is Chihaya herself, okay? Ayase. I love Ayase. I worship the ground she walks on, all right? And if you look at the show and you watch the show, and it's great. Taichi's there to support her and all this wonderful stuff, but she's never asked him for it in a lot of ways, other than being like a friend. And it's pretty obvious that she has some kind of complicated feeling for Arata, and I just think it makes so much more sense because the people who are like, oh, she should get with Taichi are like, I like Taichi and I think Taichi deserves it. Well, you know what? I like Chihaya, all right? I like Chihaya, and I think Chihaya deserves whatever she wants to get in life. Just putting that out.
You realize you're totally being flat with that pairing because all Arata is a metaphor for the passion of Karuta. And that is
the opposite. You can make a complete opposite argument that her love of Karuta is based on her attraction to Arata as a child. Because he's her Osana Nanjimi, her childhood friend trope, if you will. The first person who turned her head as a child.
See, this is why I'm a horrible shipper, though, because I will analyze context before people.
Or maybe...
I'm not arguing that Chihaya, like, I'm actually not in that boat, but I'm just playing devil's advocate here. You could argue that the moment she first felt worthy and the association she first felt with being worthy equally comes from being with him and being part of the game.
Oh, yeah,
And
I
the
get where you're
idea
coming
of
from.
the idea of her being so driven to be better at the game is because it's her association with him. You could make that argument.
You could if she
And
totally
you could
didn't
also-
look past him and just went like, "This is my card." He was never in the picture. It was just like, "I won this card in this match." Yeah, and there's some other guy there too, but
I don't know. I think you could
Well-
make that argument until the end of the second season, and I feel like it was a little bit more telling at the end of the second season.
yeah,
But that's just me.
You're right, because she damages herself so much because we're low over her game. She really needs just a good masochist to lead her in the right direction. So Pseudo from Hokuto High School is obviously her best pairing.
I love you, Basil. Oh my god. Yeah, no, I just
I'm
just
just
wanted
saying.
to rant about that for a second, but no, I'm not a strong shipper in this series. It just irritates the piss out of me when people are like, "Oh my god, she should give up everything and be with Taichi." I don't think she should do shit all with Taichi. Like, that's great. He's got unrequited love, but whatever. You know, if she doesn't feel it, she doesn't feel it.
No, honestly, I think your pairing is where it should go if they actually do complete a pair, because of the metaphor that's implied therein.
Yeah.
So I'm with you.
Oh, that's where I see it going. But, like, I don't know. If this were real life and not an anime, realistically, she probably would be with Taichi. But I understand that. But, you know.
Well, you know, he's like blonde and cute. Yeah.
No, I meant because he's around. Because, you know, he's there. Like, physically there. I mean, like, in reality, I don't want to be the killer of all romance here. But, I mean, that matters a lot.
Yeah, sure. Intimacy kills romance. I get you.
No, I'm just saying, like, in reality, she would be with Taichi because Taichi's there. Taichi gives her affection, and he's not unattractive. She has feelings toward him on a friendship level. I just feel like, I don't know. In reality, she wouldn't really pine away for Arata for that long, and she probably would have been more aware. But yeah, I don't know. That's just me proselytizing here. I don't know about shit. So.
Of course, then you could always, you know, go the other route with pairing Ayase with Wakamiya. You know, the queen.
Oh, the queen. Yeah, because they really like the shit. I see her more with Oe than I do with the queen chick.
But then you got that whole rivalry, man.
See, I'm spawning a whole fanfic in my head where Arata and Wakamiya they have this flirt, brief affair which causes turbulence amongst their other paired selves, and that causes trouble. And I'm probably writing something I shouldn't, so I'm going to stop that there.
No, I could totally see it though, because I've been reading the latest copies of the manga version of Flowers of Evil, and that seems totally feasible.
Oh,
right now to me.
Let's not bring that into it, because that's like a whole other 2-hour discussion. Easy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. So, what were some of your favorite matches in the show? Because there are a lot of good ones.
I love everything with Oe in it. I'm going to be really honest. I think her matches are most interesting to me.
Yay!
I really do. I like her as a character. I think they should have done more with her, and I almost think like she's a little bit the voice of the audience, which I respect, and it's an interesting character development piece to be, because she's the one who so obviously knows what's going on in a lot of ways.
But see, I see her in the role of the teacher more so than the audience there. Because she's more old Japan saying, this is what our heritage means. Internalize it. And, reap the benefits.
I could see that. I mostly see her at the end of the second season. I absolutely see her in a lot of ways because she is she's so much more aware of what's going on with all the characters and what their motivations are before anyone else is. And that's why I see her a lot as the voice of the audience, is because she's vocalizing things that the audience can see. But you know what I mean? To make it more obvious, like when Death Tomu's having trouble, she notices when he has trouble, and she notices when Nikuman-kun is feeling bad about losing matches, and she notices that Taichi has a thing for Chihaya, and you know what I mean? And she knows everything, and she voices it for on behalf of the audience in some way.
And actually, since we're in the spoiler section, huge spoiler, well, not huge spoiler, that episode 24, there's a moment where Taichi and Chihaya go up the stairs holding hands as he's leading her to witness a match between Wataya and Wakamiya. And Sumire catches them running away holding hands and comes away like really gloomy because she's had this crush on Mishima for a while. And Oe just comes out with this first line from a poem about Ikibuki mugwort. I'm probably mangling that. But the whole essence of the poem is, restricted feelings and how much you feel them when you can't express them. And she just lays down that first line, says everything that needs to be said right there. And I love that moment. It's a beautiful moment.
It is.
And that's one of those moments where, the new girl, goes, oh, right, these. Whereas, her entire reason to play this game is just to get close to Taichi. And this is the first time, one of the few times where she's like, oh, wait, there really is more to this than what I'm thinking there is. That this has more, connotation. This is actually maybe more important of a thing than I've realized when I signed up.
And I like the fact...
I really...
Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I like the fact that she hangs around, honestly. I like the fact that she's continuously, like you're saying, discovering that there's more depth to these poems than she previously thought. And the fact that she stays in the club despite every indication that, Mishima's not going to be interested in her at all. There's something indicating that she's really gripping onto these poems. And I think that's really the core of the series is, everyone identifying with the poems in a different way. And it inevitably leads them to each other through a game, through an anime, to an audience. And I think that's like the most important thing.
No, and one of the things that I am really impressed about this show is how well paced these 2 seasons are. That while I would love to have more of it, I'm okay with what I've had so far. Like, I could buy this and feel like, especially the first season, they could have never given me a second season, and I was totally okay with where they ended that first season. I felt I knew there was a lot more to tell, but I felt pretty complete in finishing it. And similarly with the second season, it wasn't quite as well because it's now just really building on top of itself. But it still ended in a really good spot where I'm like, okay, I'm good with what I've got so far.
Yeah, I like the pacing in the first season better, but I didn't. It's not like I disliked the second season. It's just it's hard when you have an ongoing manga and you have to end it, and it has to end at a certain place. So I don't think they could have done any better with it.
I agree.
Well, that's what I kind of referred to. Like the first season, it felt like we got a really good completed story arc. Whereas the second season, because it's building on that first arc, it's now having to ramp things up. But because they couldn't ramp things up to the level that you're expecting now out of the show, that you're right. I feel the first season was better at it than the second season, but the second season still ended at a point where I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I think the first season was way more accessible because it had so much to build up and so much to work with and flush out. And it did a remarkable job within its 26 episodes of doing so. And then, like you said, the second season, it came up against this wall. Like, we've already done all this exposition. Like, okay, we'll add a couple more characters, and they barely flushed them out at all. But I think the magic of the second season is how well they develop the strategy of the game, because that's not really a point in the first part. In the first season, the first season is more developing the characters and how they connect. The second season is a lot more about the game, but at the same time, it's not game specifics. It's how each character uses their own talent to advance within the game. And it's like season 2 is better analytically than it is off the cuff, so to speak.
I could see that.
Yeah, totally. Although go back to my my original question was, admittedly, the game where Chiha wins by jamming her finger.
Oh yeah.
And admittedly, that's also one of the more recent games, so this just could be my memory going like, yeah, that was really good, wasn't it? But it was really good, and just the fact that she was sort of playing against someone who had similar, power set, as it were, to the Queen, but was still a little bit different and was still coming into her own, and giving Chia, her own warm up to that, and then winning by just again, throwing all caution to the wind and just trying to do her best, and it ends up coming with somewhat severe repercussions for her. It was awesome.
See, I didn't draw the parallel with the Queen as much as I did as Chihayafuru, Chihaya confronting herself, her younger self more specifically, because Chihaya, by the end of season 2, has grown to the point where she's incorporated so many of her mistakes and learned from them that she is totally grown as a character. And who she's paired up against in that last match not only has an advantage of the same sort of sense of hearing and quick reflex as Ayase had to begin with, but she is also the granddaughter of the reader and is familiar with her speaking tone, which helps her throughout the match. So there's a huge barriers because Ayase is older now, implying, a little slower, but a little more knowledgeable. And I love everything that match implies. It's fantastic. It's experience and wisdom overcoming youth and, slap-happy, card-grabbing, instinct and instinct.
Yeah, you're probably right.
There's no right. That's just that's how I see it.
No, you're right. I can definitely now you said that, I can see that. I could definitely see that. But that really goes to show you just how awesome the show is. That we can both watch the same match and go, it kind of reminds you of this. Well, then actually, this reminds me of this. And they're both valid, and it's a stupidly deep show. Just in that it's not deep like, oh man, that's so deep, but more like, layers of an onion. You can just keep peeling at it.
And honestly, the thing that frustrates me the most about it is that nobody I know watched it except for you, Basil. Like, that's what frustrates me the most, because I get done with a Chihaya episode and I'm like, oh god, I need to talk to somebody about this. Like, I really need to. And there was like you and then Stucky didn't really get into it, and so I had no one to talk to it about. And it broke my heart because people get online and they talk about like the latest episode of Naruto like they're going out of business, but there was no one to talk about Chihaya with. It breaks my heart that it wasn't as popular, and I guess when it was coming out on the streaming market than other things.
You see, for me, it was actually a case of Doug, it was actually Doug who got me into the show, where she had watched it and was like, hey, Basil, you should watch this show. And I hadn't got into it yet. It was about 2 or 3 episodes into it at this point, and I just hadn't gotten to it yet, although I'd heard good things. I started watching it and going like, oh man, this is great. This is awesome. This is perfect for me. Oh my God. I am so into this thing. And I go to Doug, and Doug's like, yeah, I only really watched the first episode. I wasn't really into it. But I could tell you would be. And I'm like, no, you can't do this. You can't leave me alone like this. This now, you suck. Oh no. And so I was kind of in the same boat, Jess.
It was awful. It was awful. I started about 8 episodes into the first series, I think, when it was airing. And I don't understand how somebody can watch the first episode, because you have to watch like the first 3 or 4, because you have to get out of the childhood arc until you understand what the hell's going on. So, I don't know. I feel like you really just got it. You have to break that barrier and to really experience the show, you know?
I agree, and I think that's where Doug missed out. Doug just watched the first episode. I'm like, did you keep going? Doesn't know. I'm like, oh, you should have kept going. Or you've been attached. You can't, once it gets its grip into you, you can't let go. But conversely, for example, I showed it to Anna, and the next thing I know, the next week, like the entire first season was watched, and I'm like, holy crap. And next thing I know, she's caught up with me in season 2 when we were watching it. And I'm like, what, when did that happen? What did you do? She's like, I just kept watching it. And I'm like, well, I guess I can't blame you there. So yeah, it is, I really, really enjoy this show. There's just so much that you can, there's so much you can put into it and get out of it. And it's great. So any other spoilers we wanted to deal with before we wrap up?
I'll explain in the spoiler section that stupid little hand pat thing I said before, because it is one of the cutest effing moments in the end of the second season. All the while this series is building up this love triangle of Ayase, Mishima, and Wataya, and Oe is so observational, as Jessica mentioned. She's walking with Oe is walking with Mishima down the street at one point, and she just stops, like she's had enough of it, and she just starts patting him on the back, just fervently, like she had something to say, and she has to say it, through her hands against against his shoulders, and she just looks up at him and says, "You have to try harder." Because she knows Chihai is just that dense. He's not going to get through to her by any other means other than being uber direct. And I love that stupid little moment.
It was delightful.
I will, speaking of things where characters are, interacting, I did love all the initial reactions between Chihaya and the Queen. Because the Queen, her big thing is that she really loves little cute things. But she's kind of creepy about it.
Kinda?
I'll give her kinda. I mean, I've now that I've seen Watamote, I now have to say kinda.
Good call.
But Chia just sees so right through it, like just right through it, and just realizing that, man, if only those two characters were like on the same team or something, she would just so break through that wall that the Queen's got, just like it was nothing. And we'd see a completely different dynamic if, just a few circumstances were different.
I could see that. Yeah.
I dig it.
But because not, and the whole thing with her trying to, to get Arata, like, on her side. And Arata, like, having none of it. Like, they had some of the best interactions in the second season.
Well, that's very specific, or at least I overanalyzed it to the point that it was very specific, because season 2 is all about teamwork. Every single aspect of that season, puts team ahead of individual, including the order of matches. And the reason why the Queen wants Arata on her side is because she wants someone to be lonely with. The backstory she's given is that I think she was basically like abandoned or made to be the best despite friendships, and just felt ultimately lonely because she was better than everyone else and made to bow down to, let other people think they were better. She could never be accepted for what she was, how strong she was. So she was always forced to cover up. And in Arata, she sort of sees the same thing. He's isolated because of his grandfather's prowess. All the shadow he wallows in and has actually, almost to a point usurped. So she wants that compliment, but not necessarily the attachment. And I really love that. That was a fantastic, like you said, their interactions were fantastic, but for that point for me.
And for him, I think it's a case of he has the experience of being on a team. And I think it's something he secretly, if he's not that, completely honest with himself, he actually really wants. I think there's a part of him that really wishes that he was actually a part of Mizusawa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But he can't be. And so he's got this really weird, an apprehension. And also that team that Chihaya has, there's so many people that he doesn't know. He only knows 2 of them, really. Her and Taichi. And so there's also this sort of apprehension if he really wanted to, because he's like, well, they have all these other people with him now. I don't know if I can really be important anymore. Even though he so is.
Oh my God.
And
sorry, go
ahead. And no, you go. I lost my thought.
I'm completely sorry. You just blew my mind for a second, because when you were talking about him wanting to be part of the team, which they do spell out, I think, to a point.
Yeah, toward the end of the 2nd season. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just thinking how much of it is a parallel when he subs in for that other team, West something or other, the school that his school was next to, the team that lost 2 of its members or 3 of its members due to traffic.
Yeah.
How important is it that he subs in for a team that only has 2 other members that he knows, or that connects with him in some way? That's him.
That's
true.
Him
regaining his connection with Chihaya and Mishima. It's him playing on a 3-person team. That's even more awesome for this show.
What? All right. So before we really wrap up, what are things that? Because I've only seen the 2 seasons, but I don't know if anyone's read further in the manga or not. But what are the things you would like to see happen if this show kept going?
It would be toward the end of the show, but emotional release. Just my personal view, emotional release of some sort. Somebody admitting feelings to other people.
Feelings? What?
Yes, feelings.
This isn't about feelings. This is about
all the
poetry.
Feels. All the feels.
No. Feelings. We don't do this feels crap on the OSMcast. It is feelings or feelings.
Feelings. I honestly, just the cynical son of a bitch I am, I would love to see Chihaya fall in love with Kuru to the point where she becomes the queen and forsakes her friends. Which will never happen. That's not the way the series is built.
That's not part of this. I don't think that would happen.
No, not in 1,000 years. But I'd love it if it took that unexpected turn, through a couple more seasons. Honestly, I'm just enjoying the ride. I have no expectations of the series other than where it will take me and how it will take me.
Yeah, I am kind of the same way. I really, at this point in my life, I really want to get to the point, though, where I really want to see the match with Chihaya and the Queen on equal terms. I want to see that actual Queen's match. It's that, because that's sort of where, right now that's where the show is leading to. That's one of the big matches. Potentially, probably, it's actually going to be, Chihaya versus Arata. A sort of a mirror match of the Queen versus Arata, and see how that would turn out. But the one I really want to see right now is the Queen versus Chihaya. I want to see that, and I want to see it on the equal terms where they're both, at their best, at their prime. And I just want to see how that turns out.
That will be epic.
So, all right, we're going to take one more break, and then we'll come back with final thoughts and our patent-pending OSMs Out of OSMs. We'll be right back. And we're back. So, Chihayafuru, you can watch it on Crunchyroll, both seasons. So there is a way that you can watch it completely legally. And I strongly suggest that you do. I think we can all agree on that point.
Yes.
Yes, please watch it. Dear God, please watch it.
And after
Hey.
you watch it, tweet about it and hashtag Chihayafuru and, maybe tag some of the U.S. distributors that, issue your favorite anime so that they can realize that people are talking about Chihayafuru so they can license it and bring it to you on, physical media form.
Just heads up, just don't even bother with Crunchyroll. Just don't even bother. They're never going to take this show. So focus, NIS, Sentai. Those are who you want to write stuff.
Oh, yeah. I think NIS is really poised to take it. So NIS releases a lot of slower, slice-of-life, deliberate, kind of well-written shows, and I think it's just right up their alley. If you actually go to animeplanet.com, which is... I'm not going to plug them too much. I just like to use them because if you really like an anime, and you want to see what anime are like it, and other people, kind of like Netflix, other people who like this, it's the perfect site for that. And the very first listing on Chihayafuru is Hanasako Iraha. And Hanasako Iraha has it's not a similar show in a lot of ways, but it has almost like a similar pacing. It's a little less intense, like in this kind of the sports anime genre, but it's the same kind of deep writing and a similar pacing on a lot of levels. And NIS released it not even that long ago. So just putting that out there.
So any final thoughts before we start rating this thing? Any summations of what you'd like to think people to think about Chihayafuru?
You need to watch it through the first until they grow up. If you start the show and you don't get into it after the first episode, keep watching it until they grow up. It's not very long, and you'll love it by that point.
Honestly, I think they grow up after the first episode, so even if you just give it the old 3-episode try, I think 3 episodes worth will give you enough of an indication whether you want to watch the show or not. It's all of 60 minutes of your life. Spend it. You'll waste, so many more watching the rest of it, and it won't be a waste, because it'll be awesome.
That's right. And speaking of awesomes, all right, let's finally let's rate this thing. Our awesomes out of awesome. I mentioned earlier when we were explaining these things, for example, you do 100 poems out of awesome, but but now that I've said that, I can't use that, and no one else can either. Haha.
Well, what's yours, Basil?
Yeah, that's the problem. I shouldn't have said that so soon.
Too soon, man. Too soon.
Too soon. So I am going to give it once again, completely mispronouncing Yuki Tsuetsugu, the manga creator, out of awesome. Just for you two. Jess.
Oh, I gotta go next. Okay.
Now it's your turn.
I'm giving it 3,000 pounds worth of Korean barbecue out of awesome.
Ooh.
That's a lot of Korean barbecue.
It's a lot of awesome.
It's true. All right, Ink, bring us home.
I'm going to give it 25 Torafuda out of 25 Yomafuda awesomes. That's a no dead card match for anyone who's been paying attention.
I now feel more cultural in my understanding of life just from that. So yeah, Chihayafuru. It's on Crunchyroll. Watch it. Tweet about it. Talk about it. Facebook about it. Yell at publishers to publish this thing so we can actually spend more money on it. And thank y'all very much, both of y'all, for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for doing this. This is awesome.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
So, once again, OSMcast.com, Momocon.com, Anigamers.com. Subscribe to Otaku USA. My Twitter is at It's Basil Time.
Mine is at Jess Panda.
Mine is at Animated Inc.
And once again, thank you everyone for listening. And until next time, we are out.